Broads Media.
Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman wrapped up their press conferences in Indy about 8 minutes ago or so, we'll break down everything they had to say. We have audio cuts, and not only that, there was a bomb dropped by Marcus Hayes of the Philadelphia Inquirer about how Nick Sirianni and the coaching staff may have not have held everybody accountable in that locker room last season, which is strange considering Nick just stated that he's tripling down on his core values, and we all know that one of his damn core values is accountability. So please make that make sense to me, because it doesn't and my head hurts. I got a damn migraine trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong with this culture, but I don't know if I'm going to get the answers anyway, because they don't even make sense when they speak anymore. We'll talk about it all. Before we do, though, we are on a mission to continue growing Broads Media in every way possible. If you are enjoying this, make sure you subscribe and leave a thumbs up here. And not only that, we have Broads Media content coming your way starting March 28th. Coffee with Broads is back, which that's opening day, by the way. Join the Broads Media membership here on YouTube for $4.99 a month, and you will have access to Coffee with Broads live streams every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. It'll be laid back, super chill, very interactive with you all in the chat. There's also a Broads Media Discord channel that is currently active, where we will communicate live when games are going on, talking about all the action in real time. Nothing is changing with the current pods. It's just an added bonus if you want more Broads Media content. I'm looking forward to starting Coffee with Broads live streams again March 28th. And make sure, if you're interested, you grab your membership down below in the description today. All right, so we'll start with Howie Roseman first, because he was the first one to go. And I want you to take a listen, because my number one takeaway was about Haason Reddick. It did not sound to me like they are close. It did not sound like, hey, we have this great relationship right now and we're all happy and we'll find a way to keep our guy. It didn't seem like that way at all. And when he was pressed about James Bradberry at the end, he was very quick but very stern with, he's here on contract, so he's a part of our plan. Well, Haason Reddick is too. Haason Reddick still has a year left on his deal, and it was night and day of a reaction from Howie, so I thought that totally set off an alarm. Let's take a listen. This is about 30 seconds. Howie Roseman on Haason Reddick.
Haason, obviously, unbelievable player for the Philadelphia Eagles. Local kid, great success story. Camden, Temple, Philly. Love having Haason. I think that, anything that you're trying to do, you're trying to blend, obviously, what you're trying to do this year and how you're going to look in the future. And I think that's the hardest job. But certainly, don't want to get into any specifics with any conversations with players, but have tremendous respect for the player and the person.
Now listen to that. It's tough trying to blend, obviously, what you're trying to do this year and how you're going to look in the future. Doesn't that smell to you that maybe they don't value putting a big fat price tag on Haason when looking forward? They don't even visualize him as part of the future here. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but when I hear that quote, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And the salary cap is jumping up, but he also talked about how, well, if you get a free $5, does that mean you can just burn the $5 and pretend like it's not valued? Or you got to maximize that $5? And I'm paraphrasing, but that's sort of what Howie Roseman was saying when asked about the salary cap and all. And, you would think that maybe that could put them in an advantage with Haason Reddick because, hey, we got more to work with, but they're not seeing it like that. And it just wasn't as Yeah, we want Haason. Yes, Haason. Yes, Haason is a playmaker who we want here, who can get to the quarterback, who will get home, who can make splashy plays. We need help generating pressure. We have to make other quarterbacks uncomfortable. And with Haason Reddick, he's in the top 5 in our eyes. He's up at the top with all the best to do it in this league from an edge rusher perspective. So absolutely, we would love to have Haason Reddick here in this locker room, and we think he's a tremendous leader on that side. This isn't the first time that money came up with him, and what did he do? He showed up, he came to training camp, he was willing to work, he was willing to compete, and he showed up for his entire teammates and for his coaching staff, and we loved what he did. So, yes, Hassan Reddick is definitely something we're interested in working out here, and I did not get that. Now, I'm not necessarily ripping them for maybe electing to move on from Hassan Reddick because I'm just about execution. If Hassan Reddick and the Eagles do part ways and they trade him, they acquire, and I'm only using this because Pro Football Focus mentioned it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that it could potentially be a late second-round pick from the Houston Texans. So in a hypothetical world, let's say that's the case, you apply those assets to the draft, you try and get younger and some super savvy picks in the draft or whatever. I mean, let's not try and get too cute here, huh? We need game wreckers, we need studs, we need machines. So let's not try and find value with Davion Taylor, a kid who didn't play as much football that you thought slipped through the cracks, because if you remember his religion, it didn't allow him to play football on certain days, but he's very physical, he's very athletic, he's very this, very that. The dude stunk. Let's not try and get too cute, but you can use those assets and help get way more talent on a defense that has a billion holes. I got no issue. I don't think that that's a bad mentality. It just actually comes down to Howie pushing the right buttons and executing. So I don't think that they're wrong for maybe leaning towards having a divorce with Hassan Reddick. It just needs to be done properly with the moving parts afterwards. It's a 5-step process, and you need to knock all 5 steps out of the park here for it to be beneficial. So just keep that in the back of your mind, Howie Roseman. He did talk about letting kids play and all, and I don't know if this is targeted towards Nolan Smith and just allowing some of these young kids, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. I don't know if that's to calm down the fan base with some of the youth, or if it's a message that we're not going to compete for a Super Bowl next season. I mean, if you're going young, then you're not going to win a championship next season. Going young to me sounds like that this is a journey. This is a learning moment and a learning season for some of the kids, right? Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, they showed signs of excellence. Jalen Carter specifically showed signs of being a game wrecker. But what happens when you're young? You don't know how to make it all the way to the end. You don't know what it's like to be in the dirt with your hands and go up against these grown men for 17 weeks. And then, by the way, you have to keep up that level of consistency and be that dominating force, play after play after play after play without wearing down. You have to learn how to do that. Now, the Eagles could potentially have a good mix and have a good blend where they're relying more on Nolan Smith instead of a Brandon Graham. Does that make you better, though? Because Nolan Smith has obviously been a very big disappointment, and I don't know if they viewed that second first-round pick as a luxury. And remember, at the time, it was hard for a lot of us to be upset and angry with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith both in the first round. But now that we saw how, in my eyes, down season was for Nolan Smith, and he didn't give me any sort of hope, he didn't give me any sort of optimism, and I'm not ruling him out. I'm not ruling Nakobe Dean out. I'm not ruling Jordan Davis out. I'm not ruling any of these kids out, but, there's a difference between having some level of like, all right, yeah, man, that was like there were things that we could at least point to that made you interested. Some of these, like out of all of them, Jordan Davis has me more interested than all of them. I watched him chase down Josh Allen on the sidelines against the Buffalo Bills, and that dude left it all out there. Now, unfortunately, that was probably his breaking point, because I barely think I remember him making a play afterwards, so I think he actually physically broke down completely running that fast as a big human to take down Josh Allen. But, yeah, I mean, what does let the kids play mean to you? Is it a blend? Is it a blend? Is it Darius Slay with Hassan Reddick staying, Kelsey returning for another year, Lane Johnson, A.J. Brown, with those guys? I doubt he means Devontae Smith as letting the kids play. So is that Sidney Brown after returning from an injury? Is that technically letting the kids play? And is that all right? If Sidney Brown's a starting safety for you, are you good enough? Because I don't think so. I don't. These are just thoughts. I'm just thinking out loud here, and I'm thinking out loud with all of you. That was really on the front of Howie Roseman. You know, what I didn't want to hear was how great is Kirby Smart as a professional? How great is Kirby Smart and how great is he at having his guys prepared to play at the National Football League level? Shut the fuck up and get away from Howie Roseman, please. Get away from Nick Sirianni. We don't want to hear a lick of that garbage. And then here's the Indianapolis media. What do you think of Shane Steichen? I think you should shove that question right up your ass. Thanks for coming, and please go see a different team. I want answers, okay? I wanted actually some answers about some of the slop that we've been hearing over the last 3 or 4 weeks, but I understood what was really probably going to get asked here, and it fell into the level that I thought it would be, but I wish there was a little bit more to push. But when you get some of those randos sliding in there and getting their time, which the Eagles are pumped for, please bring them all up. Please bring me the Kirby Smart questions, and I'll give you a nice lengthy answer so I don't got to worry for a damn second about Jeff McClain. And who the hell do you think you are, Nick? The balls on this guy when you collapse as disgusting as you did, and when you are clearly not highly regarded around this town, for you to go, hey, Jeff, I'll answer your question, and then walk off as soon as he acknowledged Jeff McClain to end his press conference. You're a loser. I hate that. That's leadership. That's leadership. Now, Fletch is probably laughing because you know that he mocks Jeff McClain all the time, and they have a let's bang heads type of relationship. But this is supposed to be a leader of men. And when you are a leader of men, I think you hold yourself to a high regard, right? And I think you're supposed to carry yourself doing the right thing, being respectful, doing what you're supposed to do, treat people with respect. And he's just like, nope. McClain, here's my middle finger. Okay, that's the coach. That's the head coach. Howie's done it before. Take some shots, take some jabs. And if he's the leader of the entire franchise underneath Jeffrey Lurie and he's doing it, well, then Nick is allowed to do it too, and then the whole thing. But that's why this whole workplace is wild and it's very toxic and it's all over the place. And that's why we're pretty much in the position that we are in right now. So Nick was asked about how he assessed the season now that time has passed, and you know what he had to say? You know what he had to say? We're in the very early stage of that. We're kind of just getting through that now. We're in the early stage. Early stages? What the hell have you been early stages? You're in the early stages of looking back at last season. How? How is that humanly possible that you are now just kind of dipping your toes in the water? We've been doing this for, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and we got a little bit of everything. I think there's 9, 10 different examples that we have really read throughout all sorts of different media outlets on what went wrong, and it all snowballed into what was. But in what world are you just starting? And that could be just Nick Sirianni speaking out of his ass, not knowing what to say because he doesn't want to actually tell the fans and tell the media what went wrong. They're holding that in, and I guess you could say that's probably right. Maybe, but it would be different if I believe that. What I think actually happened is Sirianni told the truth, and they actually are just kind of starting this. Like, if I believe that they know deep down what happened and they were willing to kind of keep it internally, bottle it up, and fix things behind the scenes, then I'd agree with them, but I don't think that's what's going on here. I think that they're just all over the place, and there's no structure, and they're whack, and they're crazy. These people right now at the top of the Eagles organization, Nick Sirianni specifically, is crazy. He thinks he's going to mesh his offense with Kellen Moore's. Jesus, please, no. What are we taking from that? Are we taking the wide receiver screens? Or there's one play that I think we can incorporate into Kellen Moore's damn playbook, and that's the QB sneak, the tush push, and that's it. I don't want to see one damn play similar to last year's playbook because it was one of the grossest offenses my eyes have ever seen. Ever seen. Ever! Oh, yeah, I'm sure we're going to sit back and let Nick Sirianni enter the offensive room and say, Kellen Moore, that's great. That's cute what you drew up here. But let me show you exactly what I want to do. Let me show you how I would incorporate my offense with your offense and marry these two together. Come on. They couldn't do that last year, remember? Brian Johnson, it was a mix between him and Sirianni and what Jalen wanted to do. How'd that offense work out? I don't want any sort of meddling. I don't want any sort of info coming from Sirianni. I'll sink or swim with Kellen Moore's offense. And there might be a cap on his offense. He might not be great. He might be very good. I think he's going to give us a sound pro offense. There'll be flaws in it. It won't be the sexiest thing ever. But coming from last year as the bar, oh my God, it might be the best offense to ever live. But in all seriousness, it'll be probably like just a structured, sound NFL offense. With some pros, with some cons. Maybe scream to run the ball more. Probably will scream to run the ball more. But at least it will make sense. We can at least pick up a blitz. I'll sink or swim with Kellen Moore at 100% compared to Kellen Moore having 85% or 80% and then 15 being Nick, because that's enough of a percentage to screw up the entire thing. Hell, if he gets one opportunity on second down, he could screw it up because instead of 2nd and 8, now it's 3rd and 13 because that dope wanted to throw a wide receiver screen to the sidelines and have Devontae Smith trying to make a block. Like, come on now. What are we doing with our lives? It's unbelievable. I heard core values a billion times. I don't want to hear core values ever again. This is the NFL. This isn't high school football. It's the National Football League. I don't want to hear compete. We need to compete. Compete. No shit. Yes, we have to compete. Thank you, Nick. Compete. Oh, good thing you mentioned that, Nick, because if you didn't mention competing, God forbid, these guys would have no idea what to do. All right. Now this is interesting. Nick Sirianni on Jalen Hurts and his leadership style. There's been a billion articles about Jalen Hurts needing to improve in that area. There's been tweets. Derek Gunn, Santa Luquido, McLean. There was another big one that was dropped as well. Regardless, everyone and their mother has sort of mentioned that the Jalen Hurts leadership quality and the style of leadership needs to be looked at. Take a listen. Here's Nick Sirianni on that front.
There's not a book that is written on this is how you lead, right? People lead in different ways. And one thing I learned early about in leadership is that you have to be yourself. And because if you lead and you're trying to be somebody you're not, when you lead, then that gets seen through. I mean, that's just the same scenario I was put in, when I became the head coach or an offensive coordinator or whatever it was. And everybody has to lead their way. And Jalen has special qualities that people will follow and people will want to follow. And he's got to do what he needs to do to lead in that way. And so some people's leadership style is loud and aggressive. Some people's leadership style is by example, and some is a mixture of both. And so Jalen needs to lead how he needs to lead, right? And AJ needs to lead how he needs to lead. And whoever it is, Slay's got to lead how he needs to lead. And because that's leadership, right? Is being who you are and leading an example. Like, at the end of the day, if you're leading by example, that's a great style of leadership. So Jalen needs to lead how he needs to lead, and I think he's done a great job of doing so. And he'll get, just like he has done in other things, he'll get better at that part of his game, and he'll get better at it, just because I know that he'll continue to work on getting better at no matter what part of the game he needs to work at.
All right, so I actually don't disagree with a portion of that in regards to this is Jalen, right? And I've been on the record saying you could tweak some things and you can work on some things, and I stand by that. But there is this truth to, hey, this is Jalen. And we have to work with this version of Jalen and see where this thing goes. And, I don't know if Reese Hoskins entered Major League Baseball as the same guy that left the Phillies this past season, meaning there was so much growth, so much development in the clubhouse. I never thought in a million years that he would blossom into that level of leader. I think we're actually watching potentially Bryson Stott very early in his career, but would it surprise me if 5-6? Now, it's weird because he got Bryce Harper here signed until he's almost 40. He wants to be here till 45, but I digress. Jay Turner has a 13-year deal, like these big-ass deals. Was his 13? Was his 10? The years don't matter. It's really just about the idea of how long these core veterans will be here. But in a hypothetical world, if some of these guys were going to be moved on from in about 7 years or so, Bryson Stott will be that leader and be that face and be in his prime and be that guy. I really do believe that. It'll be in his own way. It won't be the same way as Reese. It won't be the same way as Chase Utley. It won't be the same way as Jimmy Rollins. All those guys led differently. Howard, Rollins, and Utley did not have the same style. Same with Cole Hamels from a leadership level. And Tyrese Maxey has taken steps into being a leader. He went to Paul Reed's house after he had a baby, wanted to connect with him, and that's been a problem with Jalen, right? There's been reports about how he isn't together with the whole entire team. He gets asked to go out with the boys. He doesn't really do so. He stays with himself. He stays by himself. And, that part of the leadership quality might have to change. That's a lot different from the idea of being a rah-rah, scream in your face on the sidelines guy like we heard A.J. Brown reference that A.J. is. There's a lot of different ways to dissect the word leadership, but I'm giving you some young kids, Travis Konechny and Scott Lawton. Scott Lawton, I don't know how many of you are hockey guys, but when he gets drafted and then he's a first rounder and he was like a bottom 6 guy, penalty kill guy, who would think Scott Lawton under John Tortorella would be the only one to rock an A on his sweater? Now, maybe you could say, well, dude, it's football and it's the quarterback position. That doesn't mean the same thing as a captain in hockey or a second baseman or Reese Hoskins. Yeah, I get it. There is definitely something different about the way the respect is for that position and the way that everybody in that locker room molds around the quarterback, whether you like it or not. There is that one guy tied to that position, and it is meaningful way more than any other position in any sports, and I really don't have a rebuttal to that at all. But I think that what gives me optimism is the list of characters I just gave to you that have done it. Like Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey. Did they just walk in and automatically have it? Or do you sort of go through it? Now, some yes. And it's also the old school debate of a point guard. Can you grow a point guard or do you have it? Did Chris Paul learn to be the point guard he is, or was he born as that natural point guard? And yeah, I got you. I do. I am not running away from that. But that doesn't mean there's only one way to do things. And I do think that Jalen Hurts can work on his style. And it's probably more off the field from what we're hearing, right? Whether he's having a tough time trying to balance the big contract and all the stuff he has to do with the contract, the Jordan Brand stuff, and finding time with his teammates, and finding time to be in the film room, and finding time to be with family, and all of it, right? It is a big-time adjustment, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is dealing with it and having a confusing time during it, but knowing the kid's work ethic, I also wouldn't be surprised if he does find the answers to the test at the same exact time. Let me tell you about my friends over at HelloFresh. HelloFresh is giving free breakfast away for life. That's right, you heard me correctly. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and HelloFresh agrees. In fact, they're giving all subscribers free breakfast for life. That means you'll enjoy a totally free breakfast item with every single HelloFresh delivery. Now that's worth waking up early for. If you go to HelloFresh.com/BroadsFree and use code BroadsFree for free breakfast for life, you get one breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/BroadsFree with code BroadsFree. This is why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. But also in regards to dinner, don't let recipe boredom strike, because HelloFresh has more options than ever before. You could dig into their biggest menu yet with over 45 dinner options to choose from weekly, and even more market add-on items to suit any lifestyle. The best part about HelloFresh is it gets delivered right to your doorstep, so you don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. And not only that, you can't mess up because everything's pre-portioned and you just follow the step-by-step recipe cards. You can't pour too much of this into the skillet, too much of that into the skillet. You just cut the little baggie it comes into, bada bing, bada boom, you pour the whole thing. It's already measured out, and it's the greatest in the world. So make sure you check out HelloFresh and join the HelloFresh family down below. All right, let's take a listen here from Nick Sirianni on the team's culture in 2023. All right, this will be our last audio cut of the show, but let's take a listen here.
Season, whether it's successful in your eyes or whether it's not successful in your eyes, you look on ways, opportunities to get better. And my job is to talk to every single player, and I've done that. Talk to every single coach. What went right? What went wrong? What's your and you take that into account. You take everything into account, and you try to get better at doing those things. I think connection is our number one core value, and there were things that we as a team, myself, didn't do a good enough job of last year, right? Maybe we leaned a little bit more into one category of our core values: connect, compete, accountability, football IQ, and fundamentals. Maybe at times I felt like I leaned maybe a little bit into one and not enough into the other. And so those are all things that you evaluate at the end of the year. And I look forward to, getting better and like I said to you guys before, like, we're not that far removed from having one of the best cultures, that any of us had ever been around. And that's, our players would say that, our coaches would say that, and it's just some tweaks that we need to do. But make no mistake about it, the things that, like, you can change how you communicate your culture. You can change little ways that way you do it with it. But at the forefront, we're never going to change what the culture is: connect, compete, accountability, football IQ, and fundamentals.
I don't think that works. I don't think that works. I'm telling you, it might work year one. Flowers, the plants, year two, whatever, dude. But this whole, baby stuff, you're talking to professional athletes, pros, and that runs dry. You say you'll never change it, right? We're never going to change that part of our culture. You have to. You have to. You have to adapt. That won't stay forever. You think Andy Reid saying the same exact thing today as he did the first day he started coaching? I'd be stunned. I'd be stunned. There has to be some level of variation. Okay, I understand that everybody, no matter what they do in life, let's look at me in this job, right? There's some things that I won't change. There's other things that I will absolutely be willing to change. There's things that, other in this industry, they may view it differently. They may head into a show thinking X, Y, and Z. I may head into the show thinking I want to get X, Y, and Z out of it, and some of that is deep down to my core that I think is in the blood of sports talk radio that I don't want to move from. Someone else might see it differently. I understand that I'll go down into the grave with those thoughts about sports talk radio. But you do have to adapt. You do have to be willing to change to some level. And there is a difference because I'm not trying with what I do to go convince 52 men to go to war for me and connect with them to a level where I need them to go compete and bust their ass and go fight harder than the guys lined up against me in the trenches. So it's not exactly the same, but I understand having just your concepts and what you think coaching is all about, but you can't express it the same bland way every single season, especially when it blew up in your face this horrendously. The reason why your culture 1 year ago wasn't as bad is because you didn't experience what you experienced this season yet. So if you go back to the same well after you already took water out of that well is eventually going to be dry. You're speaking to grown men, professional athletes like they're children with these core values, and I just don't think that it lasts. I don't think this is something that you can really build on and go, you know why we're in great shape year in and year out? Because of Nick's core values. And that sucks. That sucks because I want to know that my head coach, I have belief year in and year out because he does something so spectacular. He has something that someone else doesn't have. And this is not creative enough where others aren't trying this for a damn reason. Okay? It's a copycat league. No one's stealing this one, I promise you. All right, that's my thoughts, all right, before I get too crazy. because I got a lot more to say. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on this Marcus Hayes piece because I can do a whole show on that. And I didn't realize that I'd go almost 30 minutes here just on the press conference. So, we'll wait. We got plenty of time to talk about this team. So, I got it in the bank. I got highlights and everything, baby. I got it highlighted, printed out. Do I have thoughts? Yes, I do. All right, everybody. I appreciate you. Love you to death. We'll be talking soon. See you on the next one.